Welcome to Mastering the Art of Success. I'm your host, Debbie DiMaggio, and we are here today with Susie Adamson. Welcome, Susie.
Thanks for having me.
I'm so excited to have you. I think it was three tries, but three's a charm.
Yes.
So I appreciate it. So we're going to dive into your bio, and I have lots of questions for you. So Susie Adamson is a systems coach and top real estate agent with a mission to equip clients to work and live with greater purpose and productivity. With decades of experience in both the corporate world and real estate, she brings a there's got to be a better way mindset to everything she does. Susie guides clients from scattered to steady, building habits and workflows that bring calm, clarity, and confidence to their business. She helps clients align their time with what matters most so their business supports their life, not the other way around. Her practical insights and encouraging presence have made her a trusted voice on Compass, 6 a.m.ers, Momentum Monday, and multiple podcasts. Welcome, Susie. Thank you so much for joining us today. So, I always start with the same question because I am very curious and visual, and I want to know first, did you know that you would be doing what you are today? But first, take us back to where you grew up, and then what was your journey into coaching and real estate?
Well, 100% no, I did not know this is what I would be doing. And I kind of love that. I think it's a great message, especially for younger people to hear that, the decisions that you make early on in your life. My son just graduated from college, so this is really salient for me. You think that in your 20s, the decisions you make are for the rest of your life. And now I know, of course, in my 50s, 100% not true. I've taken many, many deviations from what I thought was going to be my path. I started out my whole journey in Korea. I was born there. And when I was 5, I moved to the United States. And I mention that because it has informed a lot of my journey up till now. It is AAPI Heritage Month, so particularly worth noting that I was born in Korea. So I moved to the United States when I was 5. I knew not a word of English that I recall. And I think that that really helped and shapes who I am now because it has made me really, I just recently kind of came to this revelation. I think not having English as my first language and then being plopped here and then starting school right away with absolutely no facility for the language, I had to learn nonverbal skills. I had to learn to read cues. I had to intuit, right, people's body language and learn how to read the room. There's actually a Korean word for that called nunchi, which is eye measure, taking measure of the space that you're in and the people. And I think that's really helped me to become a top notch realtor and also a great coach because coaches are sort of part therapists. And so it's also helpful to be able to know, how people are feeling. And then I was in advertising, I was in marketing, brand consulting. That definitely has shaped this journey into becoming a productivity coach because early on, before I was a realtor, I was in the corporate space. I learned how to be a more productive business person. And then when I got into real estate, I created checklists and I had systems, and I didn't know that that wasn't the norm. And so fast forward, I looked around and I saw that not everybody was operating the way I was. And I really wanted to help people to lead less stressful lives because, as you know, most realtors are reacting all day long. And so I'm really
Absolutely.
obsessed with trying to get people to, yeah, not have to replicate what they do all the time, to be less stressed. I just gave a talk. Those pictures were from a talk I did in Florida where I talked about how to actually unplug and
Mm,
take time off for both celebrations, vacations, but also my mom recently passed away, as did my father in law. And during those seasons where you have to step away for not happy things, but you want to be present in your life, you have to have systems that are going to carry your business forward without you being there.
absolutely. Well, that's the word that keeps ringing in my head. First of all, we've never really had a conversation before, but we are very aligned, which is so interesting. I do not come from a corporate world at all. And so what I wanted to ask, and now you said you had a lot of your training and influence from being in the corporate world. Let's talk about systems because I feel the same when I'm coaching our agents. I came up with all these different systems to help them implement, and it was just an easier way for me to coach them. So tell us about your
Mhm.
systems. We know they came now from the corporate world, but share those because systems are so important.
Absolutely. So I talk a lot about how it is impossible to actually scale your business without systems, right? Agents are told from an early start in their career that they need to grow, grow, grow. But there is a difference between growth and scale, right? You can grow by doing more with more effort, more time, more people, more money, or you can scale, which is to grow with less time, less effort, less stress. And so the key to that, of course, is systems. And the systems I teach are how to get things out of your head, how to stop operating based on intuition and memory. A lot of agents just tell me all the time. Just this morning, I had an info call with a potential client, and she said, well, I've grown to like 20, $30 million a year, but everything's in my head. I don't have any checklists. I have no templates. I have no, and I'm like, and that's doable, but you will burn out if you operate that way. And so you had mentioned in my bio that I operate by there's got to be a better way. I'm a fundamentally impatient person. And so if I think there's a shortcut to doing something, or if I find myself doing something repetitively, I'm going to create a template for it. I'm going to create a shortcut for it. I'm going to find a hack for it. And so my systems are all about the tools that can make your life easier and help your decision making much more intentional instead of reactive.
So give us so you're coaching me and we're sitting
Mhm.
down and I have everything in my head. Only in the last year or so did I start calendaring things and I had to
Mhm.
hire a VA because calendaring is very difficult to get it on Google, Google Calendar to get on your phone. I mean, just that it was enough to make me crazy. So you're coaching me and I need to implement some systems. Give me three systems that I could implement as a listing agent and a buyer's agent.
Absolutely. So the first thing that I do with clients is actually bigger picture decision making. So we do a business plan and not like a typical real estate business plan, which is just about numbers. We talk about your mission, your vision, your team characteristics, your brand elements, so that you have a bigger picture for again decision making with intention rather than reactivity. And then I go through a lot of your digital clutter, the stuff that's getting in the way of proper decision making, all the stuff that you are being distracted by all day long. And I always point out that many agents I talk to say they must have ADHD. And I
Yep.
have two family members with ADHD. So I do know what that looks like. And I also know that we're all distracted regardless of whether or not we have ADHD. So, how can we minimize the distractions? How can we manage the distractions so that we're not constantly context switching? So, we go through your inbox and cleaning that up, and it's actually doable. I talk about where do you keep your files and organizing all of those so that you can find things so you're not constantly wasting time looking for stuff. And I give you a structure for an operations manual template. I work with agents and I give them all the tools that they can start with so they don't have to create anything from scratch, because most of my clients are productive agents already. They're not brand new agents. So they can't, I say like they can't stop the bus while it's running, right? They're not changing tires while the bus is running. So I give them something to start with so then they can just tweak it. And then very critically, we take how you do a listing and a buyer transaction from beginning to end, step by step. A listing transaction checklist is over 100 tasks. So we go through step by step and go through drawing out. I just call it like brain sucking, taking all of that good stuff that's in your brain that you've been doing for years and putting
Right.
it in a checklist so that you can actually delegate the things you shouldn't be doing, and really getting the agents to focus on what of these 100 plus tasks can only you do. And then let's take all the rest of those and assign them to somebody else. Because it's not about how much time each individual task takes. It's that every single task takes at least 20, 30 minutes of distraction in order for you to get back on track. So, how can we minimize that sort of just like swerving all over the road and keep you focused on what you have to do?
That is a really good example. Swerving all over the world. Because I'm such a control freak. I'm like, why don't I just do it? By the time, what I would say,
Yes.
by the time I told someone to do it, I might as well do it myself. So what do you say to us who are saying that to you?
I hear that all the time. And so I always say it's either short term pain or long term pain. You choose your pain. So you can keep doing the stuff that you're doing and do it all day long, but we only have one battery pack, right? And all day long, if you are draining your battery pack with the little things, those little 5-minute tasks, the 10-minute tasks, the 20-minute tasks, by the end of the day, you haven't touched the important stuff on your list and you have
True.
completely drained your energy. So you can't even get to those things. And those are the things that are going to help you actually grow and scale your business.
That is so true. Because yes, last night I got an offer and I was so tired I couldn't even think
Yeah,
of making because I was so drained of the
right.
meetings, the Zooms, and everything else. So it's a very good example. I love the example of swerving all over the road. It's so true because it's like, oh, I'll do that and I'll do that and I'll do that, but it's not. I don't have to do it. I can have someone else
That's
do
right.
it. So just wanted to highlight that for people. So, are there any other systems you want to share? These are great systems.
So I have checklists for all sorts of things. I mean, I have systems. Oh, so actually, let me clarify, because I think a lot of people don't think about the difference between processes and systems. And so we've
Okay.
talked a lot about the word systems, but every agent has processes. They know how to get from a lead to a closing, right? For the most part, they know that 100 tasks in their head. But a system is putting it into a structure that you can repeat it consistently. So the other analogy I use often is this is the difference between a home cook and a restaurant chef. A good home cook can make a good meal and probably do it night after night, but it might not be exactly the same. But you could not be a Michelin star chef if you don't repeatedly deliver the same delicious meal, customer after customer, night after night, regardless of whether or not you're in the kitchen, right? So your team has to be able to deliver on your brand promise every single transaction, every single time with consistency. That's how you scale your business.
That's
So
incredible.
all of the stuff that I offer to my clients and the things that I tell people is you need to have a plan, right? One of my favorite quotes is Benjamin Franklin's, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail, right? So I talk a lot about just getting the stuff out of your head, whether it is a checklist or whether it is your tasks for the day, whether it's ideas that you have. As long as you keep it in your head, you can't prioritize it, you have no clarity, and you will forget, right? We have way too many things in our heads and we will forget. So write things down, put them in a consistent place that you can trust, and go by that as your command center, whatever system you're using, whether it's your Apple Notes or Google Tasks, or for Compass agents, always preach using a platform. Whatever it is, do it consistently and make it trustworthy.
Right. I use a lot of Google Docs and slides and presentations,
Yes.
and then my notes on my phone is just everything's there. So a lot of us now, I'm Corcoran, but a lot of us now are under the Compass brand. So what
Mhm.
is that called for some of us who might be using that new tool, the where you're
The
putting
Compass
in,
platform. Yeah,
oh,
that's
just
I just put everything, yep. And whatever you use, if you're a part of Compass or not part of Compass, whatever you use, you want to do more with less. So the answer is rarely going to be another app, another program, another tool. The fewer things you can use, the better. So if you're in the Google Suite, stay in the Google Suite because, again, it's all about staying on the main road and not exiting constantly, right? Not swerving. I use the road analogy all the time. So, to the extent that you can stay on track, you're going to get to your destination faster.
That's very good. I like it. So, was there a defining moment when you realized there's got to be a better way to work and live? I know, of course, and you hear it all the time. It's agents can work 24 hours a day, and especially when they're on vacation. So, what inspired you to transition from being a successful agent into a systems coach? And how did you find that better way to live?
Yeah, when I got into real estate, which I never ever thought I would do because I never wanted to be in sales, um, I after like a year of real estate, I just had this, clarity that I wanted to help other agents to be able to succeed in this business and to find success without being salesy, right? We hear all the time, I don't want to be salesy. I don't want to be pushy. I don't want people to cross the street and avoid me when they see me. And I found that I was able to do that just by being myself and building relationships and doing things that I love to do, right? Um, and so when I had the clarity about having better systems was when I joined the first team that I was part of, and she was already successful, the team leader. And I just saw that there were like pieces and parts that were there but hadn't been put together in a cohesive way in order to scale the business. And every step since then, I've had checklists and templates and shortcuts and things. And um, I never want to be consumed by my work. I want to be fully aware that we are working to live, not living to work. And so whatever I can do to put the important things first, right? Your family, your when my parents were aging and needing more time, I wanted to make sure that I could step away from my business and that my clients wouldn't suffer for it. So every step along the way, every season, every chapter has sort of validated and solidified and helped me to refine what's important in my life. And then, to make sure that the systems can support that.
I feel like we're always redefining ourselves. We're always trying to
Yes.
get organized and refine how we do things. Do you have a morning routine?
Well, you know what? I'm going to be really honest. To have a morning routine, I don't always stick to it, but for the most part, I wake up. This is one of my favorite words. I can't remember what language it is. And I saw it on social media. I want to say it's like Danish or something. There's a term called Herkel. Have you heard of this? It's the it means like you lounge around in bed longer than you should. So every morning I think, oh, I gotta stop Herkly Durkly. And I try to get out of bed and I know I'm not supposed to pick up my phone first thing, but I often do to just sort of like get my brain juices going. And then one of the first things I do is I check my calendar the night before. I actually have shortcuts to set alarms for every appointment for the day. I just double check in the morning what's my day look like, and then I check to see where when I need to be at the computer. And before then, whenever possible, I go through my task list from the day before. I will take all of my overdue tasks, move them to today, and then take about 5 to 10 minutes of what I call task list hygiene. I go through, I look at my calendar. I know I've got 10 appointments today. I'm not going to get through 40 tasks. So then I kick off a few things that I know I don't need to get done today. And then I prioritize like 1 to 3 things I absolutely need to get done. I put asterisks next to those. And then I get into my day. And throughout the course of the day, whenever I ask myself subconsciously, what's next? What's next? What do I do? I check how much time I have before my next appointment. And then I just hit my task list. I say, okay, what can I get done in 15 minutes? What can I get done in half an hour? What can I get done in the hour slot that I have? And I just, chip away at my command center, which is my task list.
I'd say that's the biggest thing that's changed for me. Until I don't know, probably in the last 6 months when I started I hired someone to help me calendar. I didn't know where I was going to be. And then with all the Zooms that became, Zoom's kind of new, and I'm in a BNI group, and and then the mastermind, and Zooms are
Mhm.
all the time, and I found myself missing them. So now that things are organized, I do look in the beginning of my day where I never did that before, but it's so
Yeah.
important. That's something now I'm trying to impress upon people. But if it's in your calendar, you know it's there, and you know to expect. I mean, today I called
Yes.
someone. I said, "Do we really have a meeting at 2 o'clock?" Like, I knew it was coming, and I
Hmm.
interviewed once, and she said she traveled with Tony Robbins and Dr. Joe Dispenza, and she met President Clinton, and I said, "What did you talk about?" She said, "I asked him how he stayed so present and so organized because he was so busy." He said,
Hmm.
"My assistant keeps me on task. I know what's in my calendar, so I'm present when I'm in that appointment,
Yes.
and I know that there's something next." So you and President Clinton just said the same things, and it's so true. And you look ahead to see what you have. So I just really wanted to
Yeah.
reiterate that to people. I think
Yeah.
that really helps us.
Yeah. I would say also, I think it's really important for realtors to hear someone say that time blocking for me is not about scheduling every minute of my day. Right. I have heard coaches say that you need to time block every minute of your day. And I think that's super unrealistic. Right. And every time something gets in the way, then like you throw the baby out with the bathwater. You're like, okay, everything's shot to hell. Forget it. I'm not going to do anything else. So I just time block my appointments, but I do also time block what I consider to be time specific. So when I need to have lunch, like I will time block time to eat
I was
because
going to ask
otherwise yeah, I
that.
won't make time for it. And then I'll get to like 4 o'clock, I'm starving and I'll eat something and then I'll ruin dinner, etc. So I have to look at my calendar during the day and I say, okay, when do I have 10, 15 minutes to eat something? And then think about what I'm going to do. I also make sure to look at my calendar the night before, as I said. The night before, I will run these shortcuts on my phone, which will delete all my alarms from the day before. And then I run a shortcut to check my calendar, and it will put an alarm for 10 minutes before every single calendar event for the following day. And then I clean it up. I look at it, and the act of doing that makes me prepare for the next day because I only go one day at a time. I don't know what's happening except for tomorrow, right?
Right.
So I look at that day and I go, okay, I've got 6 appointments or I've got 3 appointments. Great. Now I can plan to go to Costco or I can like take a minute and do this presentation that I have to prepare for next week, whatever it is. So every night I'm preparing for the next day by setting my alarms. And then to your point about what President Clinton said, those alarms allow me to be present in whatever I'm doing right now because I know my alarm's going to go off 10 minutes before this podcast is over. My alarm's going to go off so that I know that my appointment's coming up for the next thing. And
Right.
I snooze it one time. That's 9 minutes. And then the alarm goes off one more time, 1 minute before my appointment so that I'm not late.
Yeah, I just learned that this year. I was so impressed by how I was alerted to the Zoom I was going to get on with that person, a week from, and then I got reminders, and I loved having that reminder. I knowing that, I mean, it was just a little beep, but I knew I wasn't going to a text message, and I knew I wasn't going to miss it, and it made me feel so good knowing I
Yes.
wasn't, there was no chance of me missing that meeting. So one
Yes.
person. One person did say, because I said that I had it set up that way. He said, "Oh, I don't need that many alarms," and I go, "I'm sorry, I need it." So I'm going to stick
Yeah.
with it because it
Yes.
keeps me on task. And I think it does enable us to be present, like you said, and like President
Yeah.
said. It's if we want to be present with one another, and that's the key to our business. We're a people business, right? It's about relationships.
Yes.
It's not about, yes, we love AI, and we'll talk about AI in a minute, but real estate and coaching is all about building relationships. So we'll be right back
Yes.
with Susie Adamson. Thank you.
Did you know that your beliefs create your entire reality, but it's the subconscious beliefs that do most of the creating? Belief shifter and life coach Shiraz can help you identify those limiting beliefs and eliminate them, often in a single session.
Like it was almost instant, like I had relief right away.
Creating better health, relationships, careers, and finances. Let Shiraz help you step out of safety and into awareness.
Definitely something's happening. It's like a flow inside. It feels good.
Whether in person or online, Shiraz provides personal coaching, belief shifting. Visit Shiraz at energeticmagic.com or call 416-529-7429. Energetic Magic. Find your greater happiness. Be well. Be aware. Be magical. Mike Zorek, a three-time California state champion in Greco-Roman wrestling at 114 pounds. Mike, blind since birth, was born in Hartford, Connecticut. He was a six-time national placer, including 2 seconds, 2/3, and 2/4. He also won the Veterans Folk-Style Wrestling twice at 152 pounds. In all these tournaments, he was the only blind competitor. Nancy Zorek, a creative spirit whose talents have taken her to the stage and into galleries and exhibitions in several states. Her father, a commercial artist who shared his instruments with his daughter and helped her fine-tune her natural abilities, influenced her decision to follow in his footsteps. Ms. Zorek has enjoyed a fruitful career doing what she loves. Listen Saturday mornings at 12 Eastern for the Nancy and Mike Show for heartwarming stories and interesting talk.
Welcome back to Mastering the Art of Success. I'm your host, Debbie DiMaggio. We are here with Susan Adamson, and we are having a wonderful conversation about how real estate agents can stay organized and be productive without losing themselves and ignoring their families and friends and life and health. Actually, let's talk about health for a second. So, one of the things agents say, oh, I'm too busy to do this. I'm too busy to do that. It's like, well, how are you going to get your work done, or how are you going to grow if everything you're just too busy? So let's start with the health aspect. Do you have anything you share with your agents about making time for themselves?
I think this gets back to how we make decisions, right? So I don't know how many people are familiar with the Eisenhower matrix, but it is the intersection between importance and urgency and how we decide on what category each decision is in. Of course, we're not doing this on a regular basis, but subconsciously, we're sort of operating based on what we think is important versus what we think is urgent. And so health falls into that quadrant of the Eisenhower matrix, which is very important, but not particularly urgent, right? So we often think about things that, and I put in that category also relationships sometimes. We put there like just self care in general, mental well being, etc. So I think one of the most important things is if you are thinking about your health, whether you're thinking about your mental well being or your physical well being or your relationship well being, all of that is sort of reliant on you deciding what's important in your life. And so the first most important thing that you have to do, and I do this in the very first session of my coaching with clients, what is important to you? I know that sounds so basic, but for some people, they don't think about that. They haven't actually ever articulated that, and they certainly don't have it written down. So I have on a post-it note, actually three different post-it notes on my computer, what my mission is, my personal mission in life, my mission for real estate, and my mission for coaching. And I am able to articulate those things very quickly. And that gives me direction on my decision making during the course of the day. Right. So when I ask myself, all right, what do I need to do next? If in my mind, part of my mission is to stay well enough to be able to see my kids grow up and their grandchildren, my grandchildren, et cetera, then I'm going to make certain decisions throughout the course of the day that is in alignment with that destination. So again, going back to driving, the first most important thing to help us know how to get to a certain place is to know where we're going in the first place. The long-winded way of saying, how do I talk to my clients about health is first I have to know whether or not that's even important to them. So, is your well-being important to you? And of course, people are going to say it is. Then you have to make decisions that align with that objective, right? So, all day long, you have to be aligning your actions with your goal in order to make traction toward your destination. So that's all part of what I coach people to. Again, just in the service of making decisions with greater clarity and purpose all day long.
What I heard, and we all hear things a certain way, and then we can make it work for us. So I'm really into biohacking and reverse aging and health and wellness, but I've been using my vibration plate, but I haven't been on the treadmill or haven't been doing other exercises. But when you put it that way, for me, I can do anything for anyone else. So when you say to be around for my grandchildren when I have them one day, to be around and healthy, I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to go jump on that treadmill right now and start working.
Yes.
It all of a sudden
Yeah,
becomes more urgent. It becomes more urgent and more like,
totally.
I have to do it for them.
And I will
I
say on that note, this is, if you know yourself and you know your motivations, and you make great point on that, because for a lot of people, especially in real estate, most people get into real estate because they're of a giving nature or they love serving people, they love helping people. If you talk to most realtors and you ask them what their values are, among their top values is going to be caring of some sort, right? Caring, helping, serving. And so I find that it is really helpful to tell people or advise, sort of encourage people to reframe what it is that they're having difficulty doing in a way that shows what they're doing for someone else and not for themselves, right? So if the goal is to increase sales and people say to you, well, I don't really need any more money, I'm perfectly fine at this level. If you reframe that as, okay, how many more people can you help if you are making more money? How are you going to help take care of your children? Or how are you going to make sure that you're taking care of yourself in such a way in the future that your kids don't have to take care of you? Then it reframes the goal, right? So I just recently reread the book Give and Take. Have you read that one by
have
Adam
been.
Grant? It's a really great book. I highly recommend. It is one of the hardback books that I actually have on my bookshelf. I usually listen to books, but that's one I do recommend. And it talks about for people who consider themselves givers, how they can sort of reframe things that are difficult for them when they think about what other people are benefiting, how other people are benefiting by the choices that they're making. Right, to your point again, if you are healthy and you're finding it hard to carve out time for yourself because you feel like it's selfish, then remember that you being around is in service of your future generations or the other people that you're serving.
That really helps. It really puts a different spin on it. Absolutely. I love it. Okay, let's go back to, I want to talk about AI and I want to talk about roadblocks. So, um, when I'm one of the biggest things agents say is, I don't have enough time or I'll get to it.
Mhm.
What do you say to them when they say, I don't have enough time?
Well, everyone has, so time is a finite commodity. I do say very early on in my coaching that I do not teach time management because I don't believe that you can manage time. So if you reframe that to, I'm just going to learn better habits that help me make decisions with greater clarity, then that's different from how you manage your time. And so again, it is a matter of knowing your priorities and making choices that are in greater alignment with those priorities. So if you feel like you don't have enough time and at the end of the day you get to your bed and you're like, oh, I'm so exhausted. I was busy all day long, but I didn't get done the stuff that I know is important. I didn't take care of my health. I didn't spend time with my family. I didn't get to that, big presentation or those assets that I needed to develop or worked on my systems. Then you have to ask yourself again, inventory of same idea as our health, right? If you do not feel the way that you want to be feeling, then you need to take stock of the decisions you're making throughout the course of the day to get you to that outcome. And So when people say they don't have time, it's really more of the drain it's the battery draining in a way that is not effective or efficient for them in alignment with their goals, right? So it would just be like food. Take stock of what it is that is eating up your day. And once you start to see what's on your calendar, what's on your task list that you've checked off, what is it that you're spending your time doing, then of course people will find the time that they need to do the more important things. So
I,
it's really, not so much of a like just logging everything, but just to reset the habits that are getting them through the day and how they're operating in reaction mode rather than intention mode.
right. And I do think it, I'm so visual, and I think you people have to see it. So they say they're too busy. Let's go through your calendar and see what you did. Where, what exactly were you doing that clogged it up so much? And could you have put something real estate related to moving your business forward in there, or
Right.
your, I think there's a lot of gaps in between, and they're not filling it with what they could. But I think, and so what's so such a huge one with agents. I mean, probably with people in all types of jobs. But what's another roadblock that agents come to you with, or you find when your coaching pops up again and again?
Well, one of the roadblocks we talked about is I'm not a process person, right? I'm not organized. I'm not a systems person. That's not how I think. And sometimes that's true. Some people, that's just not their strength. They're not linear thinkers. They're not people who connect the dots between things so that they know how to get things done more effectively. And then I say, it's not a matter of, another book that I love is Who Not How. You don't have to be good at everything. You just need to find the people who are, right? To shore up your weaknesses so that you can be in your areas of strength. I don't think everybody needs to be a systems person. Not everyone needs to know how to think linearly. You're good at what you do because you're good at what you do. Lean into that, right? Like will often say, like, Michael Phelps doesn't spend a lot of time trying to figure out how to be a better gymnast. He's just exercising in the swimming pool all day long, right? Like, he is focusing on his strengths. So you don't have to be well rounded. Find the things that you're not great at. Let's see if there are some habits or tools we can put in place to help facilitate you getting through that area better, because there are some things you can avoid. And then let's shore up your team in a way that you've got the right people doing the right things, right? If you're spending a lot of time grocery shopping, let's find that out. If you're spending time doing, pickup and drop off, let's figure out how to have somebody else do that. But there is also a matter of the stuff that drains you. And then are you doing enough to recharge your battery? Right. So often we'll think about all the stuff that's draining us. And yes, that can be reconsidered and think about where we can sort of shave off the things that are lower priority. But are you doing enough to recharge your battery so that you have the energy to do the things that you want to do? Right. So, especially
Right,
during COVID, that lesson became very clear to me. I was being drained, drained, drained all day long. And because I couldn't be with the people that I loved, I wasn't getting recharged and refueled. And so then my ultimate battery pack drained completely, right? So we also need to be aware of what do I need to do in order to recharge enough that I can be then pouring out into other people.
right,
So that is the
absolutely.
big roadblock, I think, for people is like
Yeah,
thinking about how can I recharge? How can I restore? And how can I rest? Um, I love the what my friend says, which is rest is not a reward. Rest is a necessity. It's a requirement, right?
right.
But agents are really bad at that.
Very bad workaholics. And I liked what you said about leaning into your strengths, right? So my husband and my son, we work together. So my son, it was hard to delegate. And now we have it kind of down. Like I love doing the Zooms and the social calls and their outreach and implementing and, going and meeting the client and the listing and getting the listing ready for market. And then my son's really great at the systems and the processes and knowing, I mean, I'll create something, then I won't know where to find it. But he knows
Yeah.
where to find it. He's got all that lined up. My husband's really great with, he likes to be at the office front and center. I like to be all over the
Hmm.
place. So he can be there, and the two of them also work on the contracts and the phone calls, but they're in one place where I'm all over the place. So it really
Yeah.
works well, but it's leaning into, and that didn't happen. I mean, in 35 years, it's happened in the last year or two. So leaning
Hmm.
into your strengths is so important. And I think as agents, we have to relinquish control, which I think we're a lot very control freak oriented. So
Yeah.
it's hard for us to release that. So let's talk about, you do a lot, you do a mastermind, a 6 a.m.ers. Tell us about what those look like and how they benefit us.
So 6 a.m.ers was a group that was started by my good friend Sky Michaels during COVID to just create community for Compass agents during a time when people couldn't get together. And so I started participating in that when I first joined Compass and just found, it's in any large organization, you just have to find your people. And so it's really important to become involved with these affinity groups or other mastermind groups or small groups. And I tell my clients all the time, if they're newer to Compass and they don't know where to plug themselves in, make your own group. Nobody's stopping you from creating something for yourself, right? If there's something already that exists, and you're somehow shut out because it's one person per market, just like in BNI where you have to be one person per industry. Create your own thing, right? If you can't find a seat at the table, make your own table. So 6 a.m.ers was great for me in the early days of Compass for that. Finding whatever other, I was part of a mom's group for a long time, for like 4 years, where I made some of the closest friends within our brokerage from all over the country. And, it really just makes this job that is so difficult a lot more collaborative because we're not competing with each other in the same market. It's, really helpful to be able to share ideas across markets and just to be able to like complain about things and cry about things and laugh about things together. You have to find that community wherever you are.
It's so true. And just something that came out, I've since launching my book, Mindset in Motion, I'm starting to just get involved in all these groups. And I just met Sky Michaels on the phone, and I'm going to be on his, I'm not exactly, it's an early morning
A happier
thing.
human. Yep. Hmm.
Yeah, be on the Happier Human. And so, so funny. I literally talked to him 2 days ago, but I was on a keynoters meeting yesterday, and like you said, and when you get to talk about good things and bad things, and you hear other people's experiences, and we're all in the same boat, it was interesting and refreshing to hear. We know when we lose and how we feel, like if we didn't get the listing or we didn't get the client or
Hmm.
didn't deal. And he had applied to like 5 different keynotes, and he didn't get any of them. And not that it was just like, wow, it happens to other people. You realize it's
Yeah.
only happening to you, but we
Yeah.
are independent contractors, and we take everything so personally because we put our heart
Hmm.
into it. So it is, those groups are very important to align yourself with other like-minded professionals, so you can see it's not always, it happens to other people too, and then we can get back up
Yes.
and go out. So, and I love, the
Yeah.
other thing you said is you made some really great friends in these groups that you're part of,
Hmm.
which is super.
Definitely. And you just need that cheering squad
Yeah,
sometimes. You just need people who can say, "You're doing great. You're right where you're supposed to be. Just brush it off. This is what happened to me and this is, how I handled it." But just to like be your cheerleaders, we all need that. And, our spouses, our partners, our friends outside of real estate are great, but it's the people within the industry that know what you're going through that, are going to resonate with you.
absolutely. So AI is a huge thing. We love it. We don't love it.
Mhm.
What's your opinion about AI? And then what are some of the different programs you're using, and how are you using them?
Yeah, I feel very conflicted about AI, just like everybody, I think. I do try to be an early adopter as much as possible with technology. I feel like I don't ever want to get caught sort of behind, right? And so hard to keep up. So I did start earlier on. I don't know how early it was, but using ChatGPT, really got into that. Then switched over to Gemini to some extent. took a class that talked a lot about Claude. Then I switched over to Claude. I'm really sort of heavily into Claude now. I mostly also left ChatGPT for other reasons. Many of the people listening to you, I'm sure, are in the same boat. But I do use it for things like idea generation. Sometimes I'm a better editor than I am a generator, and that's my sort of wheelhouse of strength. I will use it to. I actually use it a lot for research, which I sort of am trying to get away from because it's not the most reliable source of information sometimes. I also am very conscious of the environmental impact, so I'm trying to not use it for silly things. Um, but I like to use it also for digesting insights that come from like the platform. Like if I get marketing insights for my listings, I will download it and put it into Claude and say, digest this data and interpret it for me in 3 bullets in a way I can share with my client, right? Because sometimes my brain is mushy by the end of the day and I can't really think about how to frame everything exactly the way that will make sense for somebody else. So I use AI a lot for that.
Yeah. And I don't use it because I don't really know
Hmm.
exactly what it is yet, but Perplexity, are you using that? And do you know what that is?
I am not. I have heard of it. I haven't wrapped my head around all the different tools. I feel like I can't deviate too much from
Right.
one platform to the other because it's getting to know you, right? So
Yeah.
I did like that I could download all my chats from ChatGPT and put it into Claude so that it could learn who I was quickly. But even still, I feel like I use it with a healthy amount of skepticism, right? I
Right.
just assume that it's not going to be accurate most of the time, and so I have to double check things. Um, and I really don't ever want to get to the point where I'm shutting off my brain and my ability to write things.
Right.
I'll go back and look at some stuff that I've written like 10 years ago, and I was like, oh, I did that on my own. I didn't use a machine to do that. I can do this. I can write this on my own. I don't
Right.
use it for like listing descriptions. I don't want things to sound too much like they're artificially generated. So I
Right.
try to be judicious about how I use it.
Right. Yeah, I was on ChatGPT, of course, and then I watched a YouTube video and it talked about how Claude was a powerhouse. And so I was really nervous and I was watching, it was a very short video and it just said how impactful it was. And so I go, okay, I'm just going to do it. So I kept stopping the video and I'm like, I got to figure this
Yeah.
out. So I kind of did the
Yeah.
same thing. And I'm like you, I'm not, I can't go out to too many things. It's already, I feel like I'm doing too much. Um,
Right.
it is helpful. But I'm very emphatic that real estate agents are needed and it's relationship. I just spent the last couple of days just kind of as a support to someone where the deal fell out and then we went back in and just
Mm,
emotional. There's no robot or no AI is going to help you sit in front of that person and try to calm them and just
yeah.
be there in their presence. Um, we just have a few more minutes. Any other roadblocks that you can share with us that agents say to you a lot, um, that you can share?
So we talked a little bit about habits, but one of the books I really live by is Atomic Habits, and I really do believe that most of what we feel like are difficult things for us to adopt are just tiny incremental habit changes that we can put into place, right? So, um, and there is no one size fit all.
Right,
So I often will tell my clients what I think are best practices, what I think are useful tools and habits. But if it's really not working for them, then we have to find another way, and that's okay.
right.
At the same
Absolutely.
time, when something is difficult, it doesn't mean that they should give up on it. They have to give it time in order for them to develop the habit. So I'll try to give them sort of tools, basic tools that they should really try to adopt. And then I say it's a lot like riding a bike. When you first learn how to ride a bike, it is physically difficult, right? It
Yeah,
is, my alarm is going off telling me
yeah,
that my time is up. So, when you are learning how to ride a bike, you fall, you hurt yourself. It feels awkward. And you regularly would say to yourself, it's just faster if I run or walk. Let me just go back to my old habits. But you have to keep at it in order for the muscles to develop. And then, even then, it will still not feel natural. It will never feel natural, but it can get easier and it will always get you to your destination faster than the old way you were doing it.
I love
So,
it.
I just encourage people, when it's frustrating with you, know that that's natural and normal, and that is the course of growth. And if you give up on it too early, you're never going to get to the point where you experience the reward of having kept up with it. Having said that, if it's not working for you, let's find another way. There's
I,
always another way.
there is always another way. I love it. So you practice real estate where?
In Pennsylvania,
In
outside
Pennsylvania.
of Philadelphia. Yep.
And how do people get a hold of you?
So they can go to susieadamson.com and they can look at my real estate work and they can look at my coaching work all in the same place.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for your time. This was wonderful, and I look forward to meeting you in person soon.
Same. Good luck at your appearance next week and with your book tour and all these many wonderful things.
Thank you, sweetie. Thanks so much.
Thanks for having me.
Tune in each week for another episode of Mastering the Art of Success with host Debbie DiMaggio. Thursdays, 2 p.m. Eastern. Real stories, real strategies, real success.